So in this session, we'll be discussing about GPS mapping. We have already covered GPS surveying and GIS in the previous sessions. Now we'll be discussing about GPS mapping. So in this session, we'll be discussing about GPS mapping for precision farming, airborne mapping and seafloor mapping. So first we'll be discussing about precision farming. So before going, what is precision farming? So here precision farming is what we do here is we observe and measure and respond to the variations in the crops. So here we'll be using in precision farming, we'll be collecting the geospatial information of soil, plants, requirements, and applying site-specific treatments in order to increase the agricultural production and also to protect the environmental changes. So here, let's see how GPS is helpful for precision farming. So when collecting soil samples, GPS is used to precisely locate the sample points from a predefined grid. So when we are collecting the soil samples, so GPS will locate the sample points on the ground surface with the help of a predefined grid. Predefined grid is what here called as map. So from the map, it will locate the sample points suitable for farming. So after collecting the soil samples, we'll be performing testing. After testing the soil samples, we'll be observing the nitrogen and organic material contents present in the sample points. So this type of information is mapped and used as a reference to guide farmers in efficiently and economically treating soil problems. So after testing that soil samples, that information is mapped and used as a reference to the farmers, so that they can use it efficiently and economically. They can avoid soil related problems. Next. So when GPS is integrated with an aerial guidance system, the field sprayer can be guided through a moving map display. So here the field sprayer will be moving with respect to the map display. Here the moving map display is obtained from integrating the GPS with a aerial guidance system. Aerial guidance system is by using any aircraft system. So here when we are guiding the field sprayer with respect to the moving map display, so that he can spray the chemicals at the right spots with minimal overlap and automatically adjust their rate. So this will increase the productivity and ensure that chemicals and fuel are used efficiently. Next. So by using this GPS mapping, we can also map crop yields. So how we are mapping crop yields is by using a DGPS. Already we have discussed about differential GPS in the previous unit. So here a DGPS equipped harvester moves across the field. Yield rates are recorded along with the DGPS derived positions, and this information is then mapped to show the yield rate. So we can also map the crop fields by using a differential GPS. So here the differential GPS will be moving across the field. When it is moving across the field, it will record the derived positions. From the derived positions, will obtain the yield rates. So this is again mapped in order to show the yield rate. That information from the DGPS is mapped to show the yield rate. So this is how GPS is useful in precision farming. So it will select the soil samples based on the locations from the map. And again will be GPS is also used to record the crop yields. Next applications, GPS for airborne mapping. So GPS alone has been successfully used for topographic mapping of small size areas. So here GPS is used to provide a topographic map. So here the topographic map is what which indicates two-dimensional representation of natural and human-made features such as buildings, airports, railways, etc. It will be showing two-dimensional representation of small size areas like airports, railways, etc. So a user takes GPS positions of the points on the ground where the topography changes, which can be used at a later time to produce the topographic map of that area. So here, when we want to create a map for a particular area, first GPS positions, a user will take the GPS positions of the points. So first in that particular area we'll map some points, and that points will be considered from the GPS. After that, we'll map the topographic map of that area. How we'll map the topographic map of that area is by considering distance between 2 points using mathematical distance between 2 points. We'll calculate the distance and then we'll create a topographic map. So here the user will take the GPS positions of that particular points, and then we'll create the topographic map for that particular area. So even in rough areas, GPS can be mounted on all terrain vehicles to precisely map those areas. So here we can use GPS in the rough areas also by mounting it on all terrain vehicles to precisely map those areas. Next. However, there exist situations in which the use of GPS alone becomes time consuming and or cost ineffective. So we have a few drawbacks regarding using this GPS. It becomes time consuming and ineffective if we are using alone GPS for mapping. So here examples include mapping large areas, coastal areas, forests, and inaccessible areas. So here GPS alone is not sufficient for mapping, mainly in case of large areas, coastal areas, forests, and inaccessible areas, like when we are going under any tunnel, we cannot get the map due to inaccessible areas. So for that case, what we are doing is we are mapping large and inaccessible area using classical airborne photogrammetry. So here photogrammetry is use of photography, which is used to map certain measurements between objects. So GPS alone is not sufficient for mapping large areas because it is time consuming and cost ineffective. So here we are going for traditional, we are using a classical airborne photogrammetry method. So photogrammetry method is what which we will be capturing the image of that particular area and then we'll create the map. So in this photography method, an aircraft mounted camera is used to capture a sequence of images for that area to be mapped, which after processing construct the map. So what we do in this photogrammetry mapping is we'll be having an aircraft mounted with camera. So it will continuously take the snapshots of that particular area, and after processing that images we'll be creating the map. So to be of practical use, the captured images must first be related to the geodetic reference coordinate system, a process known as georeferencing the images. So here, georeferencing means we are comparing the inertial coordinate systems of a map with the aerial photo image. So geodetic reference coordinate system is like Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinate system. So after capturing the images, first we need to map that images with respect to the geodetic reference coordinate system. If they are same, then it is known as the georeferencing images. Next, in classical airborne photogrammetry, the georeferencing is done indirectly with the help of a number of ground control stations with the known geodetic coordinates and their corresponding image coordinates. So in this airborne photogrammetry, georeferencing is done indirectly. How we are doing georeferencing is how we are comparing the inertial coordinate system of a map with the photo image. So what we are doing here is here we are using ground control stations. Here the ground control stations will be having their own known coordinates along with their image coordinates. So that will come if a image is captured, that image will be compared with the ground station image coordinates. In recent years, GPS has been used on board the aircraft to provide the position of aerial camera as well as the precise time of each aerial exposure. So here In the recent times, we are using the onboard aircraft to provide the position of aerial camera as well as the precise time of each arrival exposure. Here we are using the onboard air camera in the recent years. Next, the use of GPS in airborne photogrammetry has significantly reduced the required number of ground control points. So when we are using GPS in airborne photogrammetry, significantly we have reduced the required number of ground control points. By using GPS, we are reducing the ground control points. Earlier in photogrammetry, we used to use ground control points. Now we are reducing the usage of ground control points with the help of the GPS. So direct georeferencing of the captured images can be achieved when using an integrated GPS INS system on board the aircraft. So instead of using indirect georeferencing method in photogrammetry, here we are using direct georeferencing of the captured images can be achieved when using an GPS INS on board the aircraft. We have also discussed about integrated GPS INS in the previous session. So here in airborne photogrammetry, we are using the GPS integrated with INS to provide direct georeferencing. Here georeferencing is the image coordinates are mapped with the inertial coordinates of a map. Next. Other applications such as airborne remote sensing and light detection ranging, that is LIDAR, LIDAR, will greatly benefit from the direct georeferencing using the integrated GPS INS system. So here, instead of using GPS INS system, we are using a LIDAR, light detection and ranging, will benefit the direct georeferencing. So here we are using LIDAR instead of GPS INS for remote sensing applications. The latter system, LiDAR, uses an airborne laser scanner to measure the altitude of the points above the ground level. So here we are using a laser which is used to measure the altitudes of the points above the ground level. Next. Another advantage of this LiDAR system is that data can be collected at night as well as under cloudy and high wind conditions. So the advantage of using this LiDAR is we can collect the data even in the night time as well as under cloudy and high wind conditions also. So the ability of the laser to penetrate to the ground even in forest areas make the airborne laser system attractive to the forest industry. So here we are using laser. So this is the ability of the laser to penetrate to the ground even in the forest areas make the airborne laser system attractive to the forest industry. So by using laser in the LiDAR technology, we are increasing the ability to in the forest industry. Next, the LiDAR system can be used in mapping featureless areas such as deserts and areas covered by snow and ice. So by using this LiDAR system, we can also use it in mapping deserts areas covered by snow and ice. So let's have a quick review about this airborne mapping. So what we are doing in airborne mapping is GPS is mainly used only for providing a map view for small areas. When we want to represent a map for large areas and inaccessible areas, we are going for the photogrammetry. Here, photogrammetry is what which will capture the images of a particular area. That images will be processed and then it will be represented in the form of a map. So here we require georeferencing. The coordinates obtained from the photography and the coordinates from the map must be we need to find out the georeferencing between these two coordinates. Next, we can also use here LiDAR. So with the help of the LiDAR, we can access even in the high wind area, cloudy areas, high wind conditions, snow and ice also. We can map the areas with the help of the laser in the LiDAR. Next. Next application is GPS for seafloor mapping. Safe and efficient marine navigation requires accurate information about the water depth and the sea bottom. So for marine navigation, we require the information regarding the water depth and sea bottom. So the availability of accurate water depth is vital for making use of maximum cargo capabilities. So by knowing the accurate water depth, we can make use of the maximum cargo capabilities. This is especially important for areas with shallow water depth. This is more important with shallow water depth areas. So the traditional way of obtaining the water depth was done using a single beam echo sounder installed on a survey vessel. So earlier how we used to find out the water depth is by using a single beam echo sounder installed on a survey vessel. This method we have already discussed in our EMI subject for water level measurement. So here in this method, a single beam echo sounder generates a sounding wave pulse which is transmitted to the sea bottom and then reflected back to the sound echo sounder. So what we do in this traditional method is we'll be sending a pulse which is transmitted to the sea bottom and then reflected back to the echo sounder. So the water depth is then computed based on the recorded travel time of the sounding pulse and the velocity of the sound in the air. So how we'll calculate the water depth is by recording the travel time of the pulse and the velocity of the sound in the air, we can calculate the depth of the water. This is the traditional way which is used for measuring the water depth. The echo sounder uses a hull-mounted device called transducer to convert the electrical energy into sound energy and vice versa. So this echo sounder will be using a transducer which will convert the electrical energy to sound energy and sound to electrical energy vice versa. Excuse me. To map an area with a single beam echo sounder, a survey vessel follows pre-planned track lines while the echo sounder generates surroundings along the track. So to map an area by using the single beam echo sounder, we'll be having a pre-planned track lines while the echo sounder generates soundings along the track line itself. So the line spacing, distance between the tracks is selected to provide the best coverage of the area. So the distance between the track lines, we'll be having the track lines in which line the signal will be generated. So the spacing between the tracks is selected to provide the best coverage of the area. Next. The accuracy and reliability of the surveyed depths and locations are verified by supplementing the primary surrounding lines by series of cross lines. So the accuracy and reliability of the surveyed depths and locations are verified by primary surrounding lines by series of cross lines. So with these lines, we can measure the accuracy and reliability of the depths and locations. So this method is characterized by its simplicity. In addition, the echo sounder orientation is not required. Next, a major drawback of using this time consuming and does not provide a complete coverage area of the seafloor. So the drawbacks of the traditional method of using echo sounder is it is time consuming. So here we need to send a pulse. That pulse should reach the depth and again it should be reflected back. So it takes time. So here it cannot even provide the complete coverage of the seafloor. So in recent years, a new technology for seafloor mapping has evolved that combines multi-beam echo sounder, GPS and INS. So in the recent years, to overcome the drawbacks, we are using a technology which combines multi-beam echo sounders. Here Instead of using single beam echo sounder, we are using multi-beam echo sounder, so that it will provide the wide coverage area. And we are also using GPS and INS. So the multi-beam echo sounders employ multiple sounding waves propagating at various angles, which allow whole swaths of acoustic information to be collected on both sides of the track lines. So by using this multi-beam sound echo sounders, we'll collect the acoustic information on both sides of the track lines, pre-planned track lines. So unlike single beam echo sounders, this multiple technology offers complete coverage of the seafloor with high resolution, provided that the track lines are optimally designed. So when we are using this multi-beam, it can provide the complete coverage of the seafloor. But to provide the complete coverage of the seafloor, we need to have the optimized track lines has to be designed. So optimal line spacing is determined based on the approximate water depth, footprint of sound, and bottom profile. So optimal line spacing is determined based on the water depth, sound, and bottom profile. GPS waypoint navigation can be employed in the field to ensure that the vessel follows the designed track lines. So here GPS waypoint navigation can be employed in the field to ensure that the vessel follows the design track line so that it won't get deviated from the track lines. Because of their wide swath, usually 150 degrees, multi-beam echo sounders require accurate positioning and attitude of the vessel. So when we are using multi-beam echo sounders, we require accurate positioning and attitude of the vessel. This is mainly important for the outer beams. So for this purpose, we are using GPS INS, integrated GPS INS for this purpose is used. We have already discussed about GPS INS integration in the previous unit. So besides offering accurate positioning and attitude of the vessel, this integrated system estimates the heading of the vessel at high accuracy regardless of the vessel's dynamics and latitude. So by using this integrated GPS INS, it estimates the heading of the vessel at the high accuracy without considering the vessel's dynamics and latitude. Another state-of-the-art technology that has found wide acceptance within the hydrographic community is the airborne laser bathymetry system. So LBS. LBS operates on the same principle as the land-based airborne laser system. That is, an aircraft-mounted laser sensor transmits a laser beam, which is partially reflected from the sea surface from the seafloor. So here another state of the technology used here is LBS. LBS is same as the which we are using in the airborne system. So here a laser sensor transmits a laser beam which is partially reflected from the sea surface and from the sea floor. So the water depth can be computed by measuring the time difference between the returns of the two reflected pulses. So the water depth can be calculated by the time difference between the signal transmitted and reflected. An accurate 3D seafloor map can be derived from the depth information and the GPS inertial based position and orientation of the laser. So here, accurate 3D seafloor mapping can be derived from this GPS INS based position of the orientation of the laser. So the major advantages of this method are high productivity and efficiency in mapping difficult areas such as narrow passages by using this laser. It is however limited to shallow water areas, that is maximum depth about 50 meters. So it is suitable only for depth of up to 50 meters. In addition, it is very sensitive to the water clarity. This is about the GPS mapping. Thank you.